Golus Mitzrayim is not only a story of history, it's a map of the future. And there's one point that is in the story of Mitzrayim about how the procedure happened that is extremely relevant to understanding our door. We see it in history also. And to the best of our ability, we're going to try to understand the purpose of the whole thing. So, Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem sent him to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, right? Was he Matzliach?
Moshe? Sort of.
In the beginning, very not. Very, very not, right? Pakor Pakarti Eschem, he goes with this incredible Besur Tam Yisrael, everyone's super happy. They all get all together. We're going to go to Paro. Then what happens? They go to Paro. And not only doesn't he Matzliach, they're angry at him.
That's worse.
We told you, right? We told you not to do it. And, right? Sorry. So they said to him, we told you not to do it when you're but you were shot b'nei Yisrael osam bara lemar here. Yera Hashem aleichem vayishpot asher hevashtem esreichenu be'enei paro ve'en avodav l'sei scher b'yadinu l'hargenu. Actually, you messed things up. And Moshe was so upset about it, he comes back to Hashem and he says, Lama haros lama asem lama zeh. And this is mitchaber, says the Ramchal, and the reason why he didn't want to go lechatchila. You see, Moshe Rabbeinu was like really, really mistarev, right? Because Moshe understood that it's actually not ripe. We're not going to have Geula right away. So I'm not interested in doing this. Okay? Afterwards, we have a whole process of the Seres HaMakos, and there's a Geula. This process happens repeatedly in Klal Yisrael. We have a very similar system of where the Beis HaMikdash was, by Sheni there was Charav, and there was, the Bayis Rishon was Charav, and they were in Galus Bavel, and they get permission from the Persian governments to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, and started rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash. And then what happened was, there was a Kosav Sitna, and they stopped the building of the Beis HaMikdash, right? Achashverosh stopped the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And then the whole period of Purim, and the whole period of Purim was a tremendous yiush for the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And then afterwards, the Purim story created a Geula, which was the son of Achashverosh rebuilt the Beis HaMikdash. And they had Kabbalah Torah, right? And before the Kabbalah Torah, we know Yeshno Am Mefur Tum Mefur Ben Amim. Chazal say Yeshno Min HaMitzvos. And they had a tremendous Yerida of Torah and Mitzvos in Shushan, in all the Medinas Achashverosh, to the point at which they were willing to mishtatef in the Suda of Achashverosh, which was basically a Yivush of Geula. And that led to an incredible Geula. Okay? So
What was it, Yivush of Geula? It was a pretty attractive body. Right?
Well, would you go to a party, no matter what you're doing, if on the tablecloth was a Sefer Torah?
You got the best part of it, but that's Eidach Haredes food, okay?
Well, no, I would not feel very comfortable.
They had Big Day Kahuna. Achashverosh was wearing Big Day Kahuna, and the serving platters were the Klei HaMikdash that were Makter Ketores, and they held Dam, right? All of the most holy things we have, he's making a party to say that this will never ever be anything besides my things. And all of Judah is saying, yay! Now, I don't know, maybe not so firm, but that's already like, what are you doing? Right? Abnormal. The reason why they did it was it became a tremendous place of Yush. Exactly what happened over here. It's like, there's going to be a Geula. Shh. Let us work. Leave us alone.
So the Seuda wasn't that. I always thought it was like because they wanted to have a good time. But it really came from a place of Yush. They just gave up, and therefore there's nothing left to look forward to.
Might as well enjoy ourselves.
Right.
Right?
Look, you see the way the psukim are phrased. Rabbi Fullman, I think, points this out a lot. It's like, there are phrases in the description of the party setup that only appear by the Bes Din. All the fanciness that the pasuk goes to ridiculous lengths to describe are only ever seen in descriptions of the Bes Din, because that's what he's building. Bes Din does. This is it. Achashverosh's intention. Who's stealing my chocolate?
He was trying to make a replacement. The whole purpose of the world is Tanug. Yisaneg al Hashem, Lenes Mizur Shchinaso. That they had a use from. So he was trying to make a replacement of pleasure in this world that would make the world worth living. Because if you have no meaning, you're not going anywhere. You might as well enjoy yourself. Because otherwise, what you're doing here, you're going to shoot yourself.
Wait, why are you going there? Why do you have to say that's what he wanted?
Why what?
Why do you have to say that's what he wanted?
Who? Pleasure?
Oh, you're saying that's what the Jews wanted, not power.
No, I'm not talking about power. Achashverosh's cultural idealisms. Right? Every culture has a certain ideal you live by. Like, for example, in Greece, the idealism was intelligence, right? And Nebuchadnezzar was probably power. The Persian version of what's good and bad in the world is the more pleasure, the better.
Oh,
How many other people do you know who took a woman, put her for 12 months in Shemen, 12 months, to sleep with her one time? There's no culture like that in the world.
What happened?
Achashverosh, when they prepared the women for him.
Yeah.
They spent 6 months in one type of shemen, and 6 months in another type of oils.
Oh, the women?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know what a year in oil is? Imagine, okay? And then why? What's going to happen now? He's going to have a few hours. We'll give it a few hours, right, of experience with this person. That's it. Okay, so what's this woman's value in the world? What's important in the world? If you're going to spend 12 months preparing for something, obviously it's the most important thing there is in the world, right? He taught a very big lesson. The purpose of the world is as much extreme pleasure as you possibly can have, right?
Which is not untrue.
It's not untrue. Okay, this is a very, very deep thing, which is that in nitzots, we call things a klipa, right? A klipa means it's hiding something truthful. So the way I'll express it to you, which is very relevant to our generation, is: does a guy who has complete sexual freedom, is he getting what he wants?
Doesn't get stability, doesn't get commitment, doesn't get...
Right, so there are parts of him, the ideology that's being taught into the world is similar to Achashverosh's ideology. The more amounts, the more loud, the more expressive the sexual experience is, the more people, the more crazy, right? The better more happy you're going to be. And the truth is, like Ellie said, is that when you replace meaning, you replace values, a person is never happy. So just like in that experience, there's a whole lot left out because you may have a very high volume physical experience, but there's no experience of connection, there's no experience of value, there's no experience of giving, receiving, right? So these are all necessities that we have in our being that are not fulfilled. So it lies to you and tells you this is a good replacement. So Achashverosh was trying to sell the world a life of just searching out pleasure with absolutely no meaning. There's absolutely no purpose to the whole thing, just to have pleasure. There's no morals, no values. We're not trying to accomplish. We're not trying to change the world. We're just sitting here to enjoy ourselves, and it doesn't last. People don't like it. So the thing you're bringing out is true, that Olam Haba, the reason why there's so much pleasure in Olam Haba is because what you're experiencing is the value of all the things that you did. The pleasure is not just a body experience. It's also a body experience to a degree. But the pleasure is, wow, look what I created. The pleasure, it's like, for example, if you had a beautiful song, okay? You wrote this amazing song, and you're listening to it,
Okay.
right? You would enjoy it, right? you'd enjoy a lot more than the fact there's a song.
Right.
You enjoy the song is all of the energy and the effort. Wow, that's what Olam Haba is about. There's incredible tanu because it's beautiful and amazing the thing you're watching, but it's also the fact that I created it, right? And all of the meaning that what it is and how amazing inherently it is. That's all part of the pleasure. So real pleasure doesn't come from just a physical experience. It comes from experiencing something that has real meaning, real value, and personal connection to it. Okay, so that's what he was lying to the world about. Okay, but let's go back to the original point that I was trying to bring out. We see a pattern when Hashem does a process of Geula. We see a pattern in that he starts off one message of Geula. It basically dysfunctions, and then later there's a bigger version of Geula. Right? If it's written in the imprint of the story of Mitzrayim, that means that it's a system bedafka of the way the Geula happens. Very similarly, we have in this generation, right? We had a tremendous churban in Europe. Then we have a huge hisoros of Shivas Tzion, which is Atchalta the Geula. And people were very, very driven by the values of being Tzioni and making Eretz Yisrael, right? And then we're in the process of like, wait, this didn't really go anywhere. Actually, maybe we want to leave to Los Angeles. And more than that, as we're seeing, even the binyan of Torah that's happening, people are falling. There's a sort of a halal that many, many people are leaving the Torah because they don't feel connected to it, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel like we're going to any word of a Geula. We're sort of like going down, right? Yeah. Okay, so this process is called in the Sfarim called Pekida and Zechira, right? Pokod Pakarati Eschem is the Lashonos that's Pokod Yifkod Alchim Eschem that Yosef HaTzadik told them that it's going to happen, and the message that Moshe Rabbeinu came and told them was Pokod Yifkod Alchim Eschem, right? But that wasn't how it started. What started was Vayishma Elohim es Nakosam, Vayizka Elohim es Briso, es Av Yitzchak Yaakov. He started with Zechira, and then what happened was he told them to Pekida. Now, what are these two processes? So the way it's described in Shir Hashirim gives us a lot of insight. Okay, so we see that in the Shir Hashirim it starts off like this. Now, Shir Hashirim is a mashal, right? So it's a mashal that has a physical representation, but it's talking about the main point of everything is the midos that it brings out. Mm-hmm. Okay? Again. So Shir Hashirim describes how it's in Perek Hey, Pasuk Daled. I can find it safe on this. Okay. Ani yeshena v'libi air, right? So I'm sleeping and my Lev is awake. Mm-hmm. This libi air is what we were talking about before Vayikra, which is that the Lev inside of us is awakened, which means the Shechina inside of us is saying that even though I'm totally asleep and my outsides, the way I look is very, very far from Hashem, but my insides are crying out, wait, there's something missing in my life. Mm-hmm. And therefore what happens is kol doidi doifek pischili, right? So Hashem is outside. In our reality we don't see him. He's knocking on the door. Achoisi re'asi and asi tamasi, right? So the Am Yisrael responds back, says Pashtashti is kutontai. I don't have my special begodim inside of me anymore. I don't have a levush of malchus. Echel v'sheno, I'm not shaykh to these things anymore. I can't put on these special begadim. I'm not holding there anymore. Rachatzti es raglai echa tanfein. So rachatzti es raglai, the shirish hapashat means that I cleaned off my legs. How can I walk on the floor to make them dirty again? But the Ramchal explains it means it's lashon nekiya. It means rachatzti. It means my legs are dirty, right? And therefore,
Rachatzti means my legs are dirty.
yeah, it's like it's lashon saginor. It's like saying a person has a lot of light, right? I'll read to you what he says. He says. He says, "Al kein amar v'chati Yisrael echatan feim." Emesh hapasuk zeh kinoi lashon hu. Ki'ilu amar tinafti Yisraelai echa erchatzem. How can I make them clean? Okay, so basically he's saying, Klal Yisrael was miyayish. The dodi is doifik, and Klal Yisrael is saying, I can't. I don't have any shaykhs to these things anymore. I'm lost, right? So then what happens? Doidi shalach yoda min hachar umeyai hamu olav. He stuck his hands, just his hand, to show us there, and suddenly all our intestines are right. And then what happens?
Wait, what?
Umeyai hamu olav, and our insides, right, became what's the word hamu? It means this.
Molten.
It means that it turned on, and I want him. Okay. Kamti ani liftoach ledoidi, and I got myself all dressed up. Yodai not fumar, and I got myself all prepared. That's what I moreover, and I got all kinds of spices on me. Al kapos amano, patachti ani ledoidi v'dodi chamak ovar. He left. Nashi yotze bedabro, bikashti v'lo mitzasiu, karati v'lo aneni. Okay. So this process is a specific process that we think that when Am Yisrael, when Moshe Rabbeinu came to Pakod Pakarti Elohim Eschem, and there was a whole hisorus, and as soon as it was deflated by power, nothing happened. Like, oh, it's all done, right? But the way you look at this pasuk, you see that with this woman, when she was holding herself in the room without the dog knocking on the door, she was already like, I'm not shaykh anymore. But when he stuck his hands through the door, he awakened something within her that now she started to search. And even if he's not there, what did she do? She searched more, right? Then he says, "Batzuni ashar m'asav me'ir hu kuruni patzuni hishbati eschem nois v'shlayim tinzu estodi mata gidolo shecholas ahavani." Before he stuck his hand in the thing, she wasn't able to say cholas ahavani. But now she's like, wait, what's going on? Okay? So, as an example, let's say we take we can even think about it in terms of power of Mitzrayim. What do you think was the point, now that you're opened up a little bit to understand the talich, what do you think the point was that Hashem did this whole process of Parshat Shmos, where all the Zakanim got together, and then it was totally messed up? What did that accomplish?
Wait. One time? Oh, you mean in Mitzrayim?
Yeah. Right? He got everybody together.
Well, I don't really know, because whatever curiosity they built, it just got sort of all the energy turned from positive to negative energy. So the only thing you now have is energy. So it's negative energy.
So basically, in your opinion,
I got all hopeful.
Right.
And then to the degree I was hopeful was the degree I was then let down.
Right. Exactly. So is that positive or negative?
Negative.
Completely negative.
Look, no, 1 second. It's, the only positive part of it is that you now have energy instead of deadness. Like they actively feel let down by Hashem now. Like there's like at least some type of yachas. It's just not a very good yachas.
Understand that?
Can you say it again? Or
Say it again.
Okay, Ellie wants to say it again?
Yeah, I said that at least now there's some type of connection, there's some type of relationship. It's just not a very good one.
This is the
Before it was
beginning
just
of
thumb dead. Like no connection.
Vayomer Elov. Yeirah Hashem Aleichem veYishbot.
You must be so cool.
You realize something? A crazy thing, right?
What?
What did Paro How did Paro answer to him? As soon as they said, "Ko amar Hashem lo Yisrael shlach tzalmim v'yavduni." What did Paro answer? Mi Hashem asher eshma b'kolam l'shalach es Yisrael liyadati Hashem v'gam es Yisrael lo yashalech. What was he teaching? He was saying the ideology of Mitzrayim, which was that there isn't a creator of the universe, there isn't any purpose over here. There's just a lot of stronger people, weaker people, right? He says this. I'm strong right now. I don't listen to him. Who cares what he says, right? Now, if the people believe what Paro said, then what kind of business is this to say to Moshe Rabbeinu? Yeira Hashem aleichem v'yishpot asher hevashtem esreichenu v'nei Paro v'nei avoda l'sei scherev b'yadinu l'hargenu. Right? Who's supposed to punish Moshe now? The Hashem that Paro said doesn't exist. Which means you see already, and I'm suggesting through the whole process. What?
Why is he supposed to get a punishment?
They felt that he did something wrong, right?
The Jews.
The Jews said, "You Moshe Rabbeinu caused us problems. You shouldn't have come."
Right.
But what they're saying is that there is a Havaya. He is mashgiach. He has an opinion about how things go, and you weren't neman to him. In other words, their belief system had already shifted from what Paro said before Moshe Rabbeinu came, right? And he gave the Besura of Geula. We're Am Yisrael in that headspace of like there's Havaya, they're of the Avodah Zarah. That means Moshe Rabbeinu is coming, the Mashiach is coming, and Hashem is paying attention to you, already made a huge roshim in their existence. Oh, right. Hashem is here, he's paying attention to us, and he's paying attention, and you, sir, are not doing a good job, you're going to get punished.
Now they believe Hashem.
Right. And they don't believe in Geula because it's not happening. But it's not like there was a huge shift that happened. They became more ma'aminim. Right? That's what it says in the pasuk. It's mefurish in the pasuk, right? Vayomein ha'am. Moshe Rabbeinu thought, Hein lo yaminu li. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu said, there's no point in me coming now because it won't work. Am Yisrael is not holding, the Geula is not ready yet. He knew this is true. He knew we're gonna fall apart. So Hashem says, Hein lo yaminu li, and that was lashon hara. It says mefurish in the pasuk vayomein ha'am, which means there was a shift in emunah, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu said the Geula is coming, even if it didn't come to fruition right away.
Well, because naturally everybody wants to believe that there's something greater happening.
Okay, so I question
And
that.
at that time, it was hard to see it, because just like in today's ages, we have everything is so accessible. Like they had Kishuf, they had all these, they were performing miracles just by from that side.
Right. Like we are today, scientific miracles. Right? Yeah, but you said something very deep. You said everybody wants to believe. Is that true? If you tell a person who isn't holding by Emunah, you say, you know what? The Messiah is going to come. He's like, you're naive. That's kind of stupid, right? I mean, you see the world is functioning with Russia and America and Chinese and the World War coming. But by the way, I just want you to know, there's a guy, he's going to come on a donkey. Okay, I'm joking. He's going to come and he's going to make the world a better place. And everything's going to be beautiful and amazing. Are you crazy? Not everybody would say, yeah! But a person who is in a place of, like he's a Ben Yisrael, he had a Mesarah from Bes Din, and he was a Ben Yaakov, right? He was brought up on the Birkayim of Yaakov. As soon as someone says that, you know what, you're right. Ve'amin ha'am. It fits. I believe in that. It makes sense to me. Some Jews are holding like you're crazy, and some Jews are holding like, you know what, I agree with you, Mashiach's coming. Oh, this is a sign of Mashiach, this is a sign of Mashiach. It didn't come yet? Okay, he's coming. So the job of Pekida, the job of when Hashem sticks out his hands out to wake everybody up, is that there's a huge shift that happens that lays the groundwork for something greater. and we're going to understand it more soon. Where does it lay the groundwork in? But for example, the fact that there is Am Yisrael comes back to Eretz Yisrael, okay? Nisim ploy. We don't see a Medina that is working with Hashem. We don't see it. But the fact that there's all Am Yisrael, kibbutz galius, came to Eretz Yisrael makes a big rosham on us. Well, there's something going on here. The nevuah are happening. Right? We say in so there'll be Od Yovel, there'll be Zikanim playing and walking in Yerushalayim, and the kids playing. It's psukim in the nevuah, right? Well, you can walk outside and see it.
Yeah, the children of Jerusalem will be playing in the streets.
Yeah, it's like wow,
it's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Right. So, at the same moment where we actually feel like, wait a minute, I don't see where this is going. We have a tremendous yush. There's also the potential of having a huge change that happened in the world, whether we'd like it or not. Where he's always, I'm just saying, no, there's something. We're in Galus all these years, but there's actually something greater for us. We can actually have our own country. We can actually have our own army. We're missing a part of it, right? Now, the chiddush over here is that within the process, the way the Ramchal explains it, and he has a sefer called Mamar HaGeula, and he explains something very deep. He says the fact that there is shichachas haTorah, like we saw that there was lo shamla melech mikoytzer ruach, while Moshe mikoytzer ruach avadakasha, which means the besura that Hashem, the Moshe nevuah came down to Am Yisrael, are like, we don't hear it, right? And the same thing happened in the time of Haman, where they lost their emunah, right? And the same thing's happening now, where we see a huge. We had the whole Baal Tshuva movement, right? We had people who were full of ambition to make Eretz Yisrael, and now we see like the Baal Tshuva movement is dying, and there's a huge yotzim b'sheila, and there's the people that are not so to care about the country anymore, right? All these idealisms are falling apart, right? So we feel like, wait, we're going the wrong direction, right? So the Ramchal explains this is actually there's a mahalach over here that is supposed to happen exactly like that. Okay? And he explains that there's two different binyanim that need to happen in order for Geula to happen. There's a Geula in chitzonius and a Geula in pnimius, right? So the chitzonius of the world is the world running that, as a mashal, the way he explains it is like Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik, Mashiach ben Yosef, is the bechina of Malchus that you see that he's running the show. We're not in Galus anymore. Yaakov Avinu was very comfortable in Mitzrayim, but he was in Mitzrayim. It wasn't working. It wasn't a place that the Shechina was running things. It wasn't a place of a holy place. It was actually a place that was pretty gross to be in Mitzrayim, right? But the Malchus was in the hand of Yisrael. Mordechai had tzaddik, also a chin of tzaddik. He was running the Malchus of Achashverosh, but his wife was, stuck in the palace, being taken by the ugly king, right? So there's a bechina of Malchus, right? But yet it's missing the hisgalus. What happens is, on a external level, we are no longer in Galus. We can set up our own army. We can set up our own country. The Goyim are not going to kill us in the same way pogroms anymore. They're not going to do that, right? And that is the point, because in order to build there's two things that have to happen. You have to have the body has to leave Galus, and the soul has to leave Galus. In order for us to be a successful Am, right, we have to have a functioning government. We have to have a functioning industry. We have to have a functioning educational system, right? If we would put all of our energy and effort into just spiritual things, then these kochos wouldn't be developed. So actually what he does is he makes a hisorus for something which is deep inside, that people don't even identify what's going on. Like that woman in the story of Shir Hashem. She just ran up. She didn't even think about it. She just ran out. So people came to Eretz Yisrael, and they had incredible hisorus, and now they want to be to build Eretz Yisrael. or in the time of Mordechai, they had some kind of ability to build the Beis Hamikdash. We're going to go build the Beis Hamikdash, right? But they weren't ready. The reason why they weren't able to build a Beis Hamikdash was because the government wasn't behind them, right? We didn't musader that were control of the malchus of the world in order to build the Beis Hamikdash. It wasn't done. The physical world wasn't in tune with the spiritual world. So the hisorus that Hashem sends, because the purpose of the world is not just that we should have a spiritual experience, but the world should function in unity. That the spirituality, the godliness should be shown through all of this world. So what Hashem does is He sends a hisorus, and the hisorus makes a change, but the change is expressed usually at first in the people becoming more, in a physical sense, less enslaved. For example, in Mitzrayim, so they already had the strength to go to Paro and have demands, right? Even though it was crushed down afterwards, but the fact that they were able to go to Paro and say, we want to go out, means they held themselves less as slaves, right? So even if it was later broken, there was a change in their ability, and they were already able to believe, wait, we don't belong here. We're gonna eventually get out of here. In the time of Mordechai and Esther, right? They were because of the whole story of Purim, Mordechai ran the Malucha, right? And his running the Malucha, who built the Beis Hamikdash? The son, who was a Jewish son of Achashverosh. They worked within the Umos. In Eretz Yisrael, how do we have Eretz Yisrael? We have the Balfour Declaration. We have all kinds of integration with the UN, right? All these things don't look very holy, but they're binyanim in our nefesh, in our abilities to be a kli for the Or of Hashem. You can't be a proper kli of the Or of Hashem if the physical realm you're in is not metukam. So Hashem sends a hisorus, which is inside. It's a neshama hisorus. What it does is it pushes people to do something in the physical, the chitzonius of the world, to bring tikkun. So, like we have in our time, there's a building in Eretz Yisrael, and a very without any chazon. There's no like, why are we building Eretz Yisrael? Because this is our homeland. So what? Right? Maybe live in Las Vegas. Yeah, okay, but we're going to build our homeland. So we have an army, we have a judicial system, we have a government. We're missing the expression of Hashem in the world. We're missing having the neshama, having a reason why we're doing anything in this time. And when the focus becomes on building the physical world, what happens naturally is people start forgetting the Torah. Because their asik is supposed to be on making the kli work better, right? So for example, in all of your personal lives, right? The times, the mashberim you had in the spiritual experiences, however that happens, right? Everybody in their own situation. You'll notice the reaction was, okay, what do I got to do now? I got to set my life up to be successful. I got to have a good parnasa. I have to have good mitos, right? I don't feel like right now, it's so important that, I want to do Torah mitzvah, but it's not really the most important thing, right? And certain shifts happened as a result of feeling that there's something wrong in the spiritual version. I have to fix the physical part, right? This is not a mahalach by accident. This is what's called mahalach of Mashiach ben Yosef. Yosef was the person who is a baki in running the world, the physical world, according to the midos that Hashem wanted. He did mila on all of Mitzrayim, but he was handling all of the issues, all the issues that came into the government of Mitzrayim, and he was the king of Mitzrayim. He wasn't a Jewish king, right? The same way that people now. You don't call them Jewish kings. You wouldn't call them Jewish leadership. You'd call them, they're running the government of Israel, just like every other government in the world. And we can look at that and say, what's the point? What the point is a development of the kollelim, that when it's time for Moshe Rabbeinu to show up in a real way and do Aseres HaMakos, or Ezra HaSofer goes back to build the Beis HaMikdash, or when Geula Asira, when we'll have people wanting a real Beis HaMikdash, they're wanting an Am that is Mu'uchad, not because we're all Jews, but because we all have a place that represents all of us, right? Can you imagine the Beis HaMikdash, right? The Beis HaMikdash was, what was it? There was all kinds of karbonos happening. Can you imagine Yom Kippur in the Beis HaMikdash? Okay, so we have a Yom Kippur nowadays, where everybody, what's a version of Yom Kippur? I go to shul, I have my kittel, I have my minyan, I have my nigunim.